Hey, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, busy and well.
That's exactly how it's supposed to be right now.
It is how it's supposed to be.
So it's all happening. It's finally all happening. 23 years later, and Belly is back with music. How does it feel right now? What's going through your head?
It feels great. I mean, I think the fact that it's something that wasn't, this could be very easily have not happened, So I think we sort of feel like it's a gift, and I mean, not to sound precious about it, but we're really grateful for this chance to work together again, primarily because I think individually we're missing that, and also just to sort of have this chance for this sort of, I don't want to use the word closure because that seems too finite and we don't know where it's going to go from, what we're going to do after this. But to have this very positive postscript has been just hugely meaningful to us. So just that alone, to be quite honest with you, that's 90% of it for us. And then everything else is just bonus. So
I've been thinking about, I don't know, maybe psychologically what it would be like to be in this situation, because when you're writing and you've known these people forever, and you're probably wanting still to write about who you are now, but there's still something like you're pushing it through a lens of something that we all knew from back then, something that was structured in a different time. And I don't know, what an interesting way to make art.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that has come up a couple of times. And I mean, it sort of came up theoretically before we started actually working on this stuff. But once we were in the room writing together, and I think the fact that we broke out of an old pattern and decided that this time it was going to be completely collaborative from start to finish. I mean, almost every song is 25, 25, 25, 25. So that's been really, I mean, that has actually, I think breaking out of our former template has kind of solved that problem of who are we and what is this going to be like, and we're all so different now, and are we going to revert, or is it going to move too quickly forward, or all of those questions kind of were put to bed when we just started simply playing together again. So
with it sort of being changed like that then in the writing style, does it at all feel like a new band?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's funny because, I mean, musically it feels very new to us, and there are some on the album where we will verbalize like, this feels very much like the old days. But for the most part, musically, we feel we're different as musicians, for one thing, and we work together in a much more harmonious way now, very much together. I would say in terms of the sort of vibe of hanging out together again, that feels very familiar, which is nice. It feels like in the first year that we were together originally. So, which leads to some, some sort of going backwards in time humor-wise. a little kinder in the rehearsal space sometimes in a very positive way.
Hey, we all never grow up, really. So.
Well, I mean, when you're hanging out with with people who you grew up with, there's a language that you kind of revert to sometimes. So that's.
I want to hear those tapes.
And it's not always exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. To be a band this time around, I'm using that in the big sense because when you're young and you go into it, it's always that gang mentality, us against the world. And these days, everyone has their lives and everyone lives everywhere that they do, and to try to kind of pull that back in, like how important is the gang mentality when you're doing this again?
It's really important because, I mean, I feel like and again, I'm going to repeat myself, but we managed to sort of recapture that like team kind of somewhat insular mentality, but also now I think because we do all individually live out in the world in a very different way than we did back then. There's more, I mean, I feel like just even something as simple as the way we connect with people at shows now is much more porous in a very positive way. And I think that is because it's not so much us against them as us and them. which comes with being aged, I think. That we still are very much Team Belly, but there's a real sort of the walls are down a bit in a way that's nice and sort of natural, and it feels healthy and good.
Yeah. Of course, there's going to be tons of new people that, Belly is a brand new band to them. And isn't that exciting?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like, our project manager just sent us I don't even know, so sort of like stats of who's listening and who's buying and who's, and it is a solid, a lot of solid couple of decades younger than us in some cases, which we're sort of like, what? Who are these 30-year-olds?
They're there and they're
really
coming
gratifying.
for you.
Yeah. Good. They have a lot of energy, I hear. Bring them on. Going to drain some of that off of them.
Yeah. Did you guys, were you able to actually write in the room together a lot, or was it some of it done over the line?
A little of both. So most in our initial, just logistically, we can't be in the same room as often as we'd like. So we sent, Gail would send a riff or a chorus, or I would send a chorus or a riff, when Tom would send, we just sent. It required a lot of trust because we were really sending some pretty raw stuff back and forth. And then we'd decide what was going to go with what, and I would add something onto something Gail or Tom sent and vice versa. And then Chris really informs where things go vibe-wise. As soon as he starts playing, it changes things. Even to be quite honest, lyrically, sometimes, I know that sounds bizarre, but it just does happen. And then Tom sort of kind of Frankensteined everything together, and then we had the basses, and then we would go in to play all together to kind of flesh it all out.
And sort of on the darker side, there was a cancer scare in the middle of this. I didn't know if I could ask about that.
Yeah.
But Gail had to go through some scary stuff, and did that just sideline everything for a minute?
It sort of didn't. She was just so. I've loved and admired that woman for most of my adult life, but this coming through that with her, it was superhero level stuff she was pulling off. And the only thing that really changed, we did somewhat, fortuitously, her treatments kind of worked around our schedule, and then we, tinkered with some stuff, but we didn't want to cancel anything. We took it tour to tour. The only thing that changed really is that we didn't, I canceled a bunch of press and radio stuff, and we really just closed ranks somewhat. There were no meet and greets, there were no after shows. She was happy to talk to people and stuff, but yeah, she just, she can speak to the situation better than I, but we were all, to say that we were blown away is an understatement by what she did.
I personally had a lot of respect that she took the opportunity to talk about at that moment the Affordable Care Act and everything that was going on. And, what an outstanding position, and moment to be using that. So which is still a weird way of saying that. I don't want that to come across the wrong way.
Yeah, and to say no, it doesn't come across. And I think that was, her really what she wanted to say is, yes, this happened to me, but this is what I want. What I want to talk about is ACA. So, and to come from a point of true impact on that, instead of just hypothetically, was very, very strong.
Well, it landed pretty hard in the best way possible, I think, to the folks who was aware of it. And I don't know. There's nothing. I was going to say, and here we are in all of the crap that we're in now, but that's really sort of unrelated.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been. Right now we're starting the conversation of, I don't think the Buffalo Tom are taking Mom's Demand out with them on the road. That's kind of inspired me to sort of say we should do something. So, right now something similar, just to have a booth. Yeah. It's you do what you can where you can, and hopefully.
Talking with Buffalo Tom, by the way, and I was trying to get you guys to tour together. I was really pushing hard on that interview, but
that would be very fun. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that would be probably the most sensible and fun thing I can think of. But we're both sort of doing this obnoxious opening for ourselves
Right.
right now.
I mean, if that show can happen, though, just once or something, I'll make that trip. I'll do that. That'd be fun to see.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is something that I would absolutely love to do. I mean, and selfishly, my family and Bill's are extremely close, so
Yeah.
it would be very nice.
Well, sort of expanding back on what we were talking about just a second ago, naming the album Dove, I don't know if that had a bigger implication if I'm reading into it too much, as a bird of peace in 2018. That seems, and I know that comes from the lyric of what is it? What's the song? Army of Clay.
Yeah. Right. That's an umbrella word for us, which is why we liked it, because absolutely peace is a huge part of it, and also lyrically there are a couple of bird references on there too, other than Dove, and so we did feel like that was the perfect, especially where it does come up in the lyrics, where at one point it's about not reaching for the bird, and then in the other it's about ignoring the bird, but the main thing is the bird is here. And I do mean that in a hopeful and positive way. Peace is a struggle, a huge struggle. Peace is not peaceful, and so that's part of the message in that. But then also just the permanence of it as well. So
I thought that was a really cool one, and it sticks with one word titles, so you've got that going.
Yeah, yep, I know. Well, and at first we were sort of saying, let's come up with the longest title ever.
You're gonna Fiona Apple the thing, yeah. That's
laughing with that. Yes, yeah. But then it's sort of like, let's just keep with we got a thing. Let's stick with it.
Well, I should also bring up the single. We're playing that. In fact, right before I sat down to give you a call, I had the station on the background, and Shiny One was on, and it sounds so good. And especially, being the first official, not counting the cover that kind of floated out there beforehand, but being the first official song out of 23 years. I mean, what a great statement. What's the story behind Shiny One?
I mean, I personally have the most, not the most affection for this one, but this was the first completely, communal one that we put together. And I think it really represents just how we wrote, for the most part, this album as a whole. Gail, it started with Gail's chorus. She wrote the chorus and the opening riff. And then Tom wrote verse and bridge, and I wrote lyrics and words over that. And then Chris is, and again, this is an example of Chris bringing a vibe in that completely changed the direction of the song, the groove of it. And then, Tom and I wrote our guitars over it, and it just sort of all came together in this really nice, sort of like very natural back and forth that we did remotely initially, just sending it around. And then when we got together, it just kind of gelled. And live, I have to say, this is one of our strongest ones live. So that's something that we bear in mind as well, is how it's going to translate live.
As far as round numbers go, anniversaries go, this does come on the 25th anniversary of Star, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did that play? Is that coincidence? Is that complete coincidence?
It is complete coincidence. Yeah. We don't have that kind of forethought.
I mean, there's a song on it called "Stars Align" on the new record, and I thought, well, look at all of that.
I know that's sort of that's a little bit. That one is definitely, that was the last one to be named, because we called that one Dreams. The working title was Dreams for a long time, and then we wanted to sort of get away from that word. So we just picked something out of and we were like, it's kind of good, because it does sort of hint at, what's happening now, but it's just pulled from the song. That one took a long time to name. There are multiple names all over every work in progress of that one. So that's one of the ones that sort of harkens back to, just in terms of style. So I feel like that it's a good title.
talking about Star turning 25, I didn't know until reading recently, because I wanted to go back and listen to that one too, that was originally intended to be a Breeders album, which I thought was really fascinating. Now that they're doing their thing, they call it the classic lineup, and which seemed weird to me. Is that weird for you at all?
No, not at all. It is. It's, to be fair, I played on Pod and Safari, and then everything they've done since has been without me. And so historically, they have every right to be to be referring to it that way. Really, and I mean that from the bottom of my. There's no zero ill will among any of those people in myself. It's all fine. And I think that's, at the end of the day, I do think that that is what that's their core. So
I selfishly, as a fan, I think it would really be cool to kind of see some big collaboration, some, I don't know if you want to call that a reunion, but, something like that happen one day. That would kind of that'd be fun. That'd just be fun. I mean, all the kids are playing again,
No.
You got Star.
Well, when they're here, when they come here, I sit in sometimes. I get up and I sing. Actually, they completely blindsided me one night and pulled me up, and I really peed in their pool that night. It was, I wasn't expecting it, and I completely screwed it up. So I asked for a do-over the next time they came to sort of redeem myself, which they were calling redemption night for me.
It's fun.
But yeah, when they're here, I'm happy to do when they come to Boston. But at this point, we're sort of still doing separate things.
Well, like I said, it's cool just seeing everybody still making such great art. I mean, because with Belly and the Breeders and Buffalo Tom, and I see that Dino Jr. is about to do something. Everybody Juliana is still out there. Knock them out of the park. I mean. It's just insane, because that doesn't always happen. And to have so many people from, a certain area that's still so consistently putting out great music, it's been really great as a fan to experience that.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of the people that you just mentioned are, lifers. And I use this phrase a lot, probably inaccurately, but I think all of those bands have sort of a blue-collar approach to work, Mm-hmm. So this is, we consider it to be our passion and love, yes, but also our work. There's it's what we still do because that's our job.
Thank God for that.
Among others, everybody else has day stuff going on too, for the most part. But the new BT, I love the new Buffalo Tom album.
Oh, seriously, it is so good.
Oh, God, it's so good.
Yeah,
so beautiful.
I wasn't even expecting that one. That one just came through, and then I couldn't stop listening to it for 2 or 3 weeks. That was it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the same right now about the Belly record. You guys have done such a great record.
Oh,
it's so good to have you all playing together again. This is fun.
Thanks. It is fun. Yeah, the shows, and also just like I think the joy of the live shows 2 years ago that really is sort of what made us want to make an album because at that point we were like, we were just planning on an EP, like a 4-song EP, but we just were so energized by those shows and the people there that's kind of that's the sole reason it developed into an album. So
congratulations again. And when it gets the release and everything, and 2 weeks after the release, we'll start bugging you for another one.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
All right. It was great talking to you.
Good to talk to you too.
All right. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.